Another day, another dead satellite, or whatever this thing thinks it is. Let's reel it in.
Doug Pemberton's tow cable hummed with enough force to fold a moon into a coin, and he was using it to hum along to a song about a truck. He didn't know the words past the chorus, so he just kept repeating the chorus. That was fine. Nobody was listening, or so he thought. Doug worked the third shift on scrapyard platform Kessler 9, hauling derelicts in for salvage. Today's job was flagged. Large debris. Non-responsive. Low priority. Which, in Doug's professional opinion, meant another dead satellite that thinks it's special. He clipped the magnetic grapple onto the hull, cracked open his thermos of lukewarm coffee, and started reeling it in like a man mowing a lawn he'd mowed 1,000 times before. Officer Kessa Vrenn of the Dravik Compact watched her scanner blink at her as though it had personally insulted her mother. "That tug is towing the Ashen Crown," she said. Her console corrected her with infuriating precision. Ashen Crown status. Crewed. Armed. Hailing on all channels. Then why, Kessa asked the empty bridge, is nobody answering the hails? Dr. Talon Mirev, the fleet's xenotechnology analyst, pulled up the tug's registry. It contained exactly one useful line. Species, human. Role, sanitation. Sanitation, he repeated, as if the word itself had developed an unpleasant taste. Commander, the Ashen Crown carries 400 crew and enough plasma cannons to sterilize a continent. It is currently being reeled in by something whose job title is normally associated with taking out the trash. Commander Ossande Kryl didn't look up from his tea. Perhaps it surrendered. "It's firing at the tug," Talon replied. Kryl finally looked up. And nothing is happening. Inside the tug, Doug noticed a faint tingling sensation on the back of his neck, the sort of feeling you get standing too close to an old microwave. He glanced at the hull camera. Tiny flashes of light danced harmlessly across the grapple field like distant sparklers. Huh. He took another sip of coffee. Solar flare activity must be picking up. It was not solar flare activity. It was the Ashen Crown's entire forward battery firing at maximum output. Every plasma blast slammed into the industrial magnetic containment field surrounding Doug's tug, a field his employer had purchased in bulk from a discount salvage supplier because it was, according to procurement, good enough for scrap work. Kessa watched the weapons log climb. 40 shots. 50. 60. Return fire remained at 0. Not because the human was showing restraint, because Doug hadn't even realized anyone was shooting at him. "Why isn't he firing back?" Kessa whispered. Talon stared at the readings. "I don't think." He swallowed. "I don't think he knows he's under attack." The Ashen Crown's captain, what remained of his composure anyway, stood coughing through smoke on his bridge after his engines nearly tore themselves apart trying to break free of the tow. Finally, he managed to reach the tug on an emergency frequency that humans apparently still monitored out of habit. "Unidentified vessel," he shouted. "This is the Dravik Compact warship Ashen Crown. Release your grapple immediately or face our full retaliatory force." Doug picked up the receiver between sips of coffee. "This the shipment from the Perimeter Wreck Registry?" "We are not a shipment. We are a sovereign warship of the Dravik Compact." Doug scratched his head. "Right, you threatening me?" A pause. "'Cause paperwork's a lot easier if I can still mark this as miscellaneous." The line went dead. Not because of the insult. The captain had simply fainted. Kessa pulled up a high-resolution satellite feed of the tug itself and nearly dropped her tablet. The vessel was barely larger than a standard Dravik shuttle. It carried no visible weapons. No military-grade shielding. No targeting arrays. Its battered hull was covered in dents, faded warning labels, old inspection decals, and what appeared to be a cartoon sun wearing sunglasses. "That," Kessa said slowly, "is not a warship." She zoomed in another level. "That isn't even a serious ship." "Commander," she continued, "I don't think this human has weapons at all." Commander Kryl set his teacup down for the first time since the incident had begun. "Then how?" he asked quietly. "Is it winning?" Talon's hands trembled as he pulled up a detailed analysis of the tug's defensive systems. "I've identified the field generator." He paused. It isn't military. Silence settled across the bridge. It's industrial. Another pause. It was designed for salvage operations. Nobody spoke. It isn't meant to stop weapons fire, Talon continued. It's meant to survive collisions with asteroids, uncontrolled decompression events, reactor debris, and entire sections of collapsing spacecraft. His voice became noticeably quieter. It's rated to withstand punishment that would require 3 of our fleet shield generators to match. He looked up from the display. And they're using it to move garbage. No one on the bridge could think of a response. Finally, Kessa broke the silence. So, our flagship. She glanced toward the tactical display where the Ashen Crown continued to struggle helplessly against the tow cable. Is currently being outclassed by a piece of equipment this species considers disposable. Nobody answered. Mostly because nobody had an answer. Talon ran another search. This time, not for the tug. For the species itself. The results appeared almost instantly. The file was so short he assumed it hadn't loaded correctly. 3 lines. Species human. Threat classification. Unassessed. Insufficient prior contact. Notable trait. Performs high-risk tasks without apparent awareness of risk. Talon frowned. That's impossible. What is?
Kessa asked.
They don't even have a threat classification. Commander Kryl folded his arms. Explain. Talon swallowed. I don't think anyone has ever completed an assessment. He opened archived patrol records. One after another. Recon craft. Escort vessels. Long-range scouts. Every file ended the same way. Contact lost. No survivors. No explanation. No transmissions after initial engagement. We assumed they were being destroyed by hidden military escorts, Talon whispered. Kessa slowly turned toward him. They weren't.
No.
He stared at the growing list of missing ships. I think they engaged sanitation vessels. The bridge fell completely silent. They attacked what they believed were harmless utility craft. And the humans never realized they were under attack. Kessa felt something cold settle in the pit of her stomach. So our scouts weren't destroyed by hostile warships. Talon slowly shook his head. They were accidentally eliminated by bored sanitation workers who never even noticed they were there. No one said another word. For several long seconds, the only sound on the bridge was Commander Kryl quietly picking up his teacup again. The truth, had anyone bothered to ask Doug, was almost insultingly simple. Human sanitation-grade containment fields had become absurdly over-engineered for one reason. Experience. Early Earth scrapyards had a nasty habit of accidentally grappling live ordnance, unstable fusion reactors, drifting warheads, and on one particularly unforgettable occasion, a whale. Nobody ever agreed on how the whale had ended up in orbit. Everyone agreed it had made an incredible mess. After the whale incident, corporate safety auditors rewrote the regulations. Every containment field would henceforth be rated to survive the absolute worst-case debris imaginable. Years passed. Technology improved.
Costs went down.
But no one in sanitation cared enough to file the paperwork required to reduce the specifications. So they never did. As a result, every ordinary human salvage tug carried industrial equipment capable of surviving punishment that most alien militaries reserved for their capital ships. Over the decades, more than 100 compact vessels had opened fire on what they assumed were terrifying stealth cruisers. Instead, they had unknowingly attacked garbage trucks. The humans never fired back. They simply kept towing. By the time the alien crews realized they couldn't escape the industrial grapple, it was already too late. The encounter would be logged under miscellaneous. Another confused salvage operator would finish his shift, and everyone would go home in time for dinner. 40 minutes later, the Ashen Crown arrived at scrapyard platform Kessler 9. Its weapons were exhausted. Its engines were burned out. Its hull smoked quietly from the strain of fighting a tow cable that had never acknowledged the battle. Its crew was thoroughly traumatized. Its captain was still unconscious. Doug carefully parked it between a decommissioned fuel tanker and an ancient vending machine whose manufacturer nobody had been able to identify for nearly 2 centuries. He looked over the lineup with quiet satisfaction. Another one for the pile. He stretched his back. Not bad. The official investigation lasted 6 months. Officer Kessa Vrenn wrote a report so thoroughly documented that most of High Command assumed it had to be satire. They rejected it.
Twice.
Only after intelligence analysts compared her findings against decades of unexplained patrol losses did the horrifying pattern emerge. Recon ships, escort craft, patrol vessels, entire task groups. Almost every unexplained disappearance near human territory had occurred within range of civilian salvage routes. The conclusion was almost impossible to accept. The Dravik Compact hadn't been losing battles against hidden human warships. They had been accidentally attacking the galactic equivalent of garbage collectors. Following the Ashen Crown incident and a full review of historical losses, humanity's file was finally updated. Species human. Threat classification. Tier 1 existential threat. Reason unknown. Additional note. It remains unclear whether humans are aware they are winning these engagements. Dr. Talon Mirev immediately requested reassignment to a research station as far from human shipping lanes as the Compact's star charts allowed. The request was approved within the hour. Commander Ossande Kryl quietly finished his tea, closed the report, and stood. Transmit a fleet-wide directive. The communications officer looked up. Priority level, Commander? The highest. The officer nodded. What shall I tell them? Kryl didn't hesitate. If you encounter a human vessel with stickers on the hull.
He paused.
Do not engage. Another pause. And if anyone asks why, he slowly shook his head. Don't explain. They won't believe you either. Doug, meanwhile, clocked out right on schedule. He filed the Ashen Crown under miscellaneous, foreign condition, loud. Then he climbed into his truck and headed home. On the drive, he spent 20 minutes trying to remember what he wanted for dinner. When he walked through the front door, his roommate, an off-duty tug mechanic, was sitting on the couch, completely absorbed in a video game. Doug tossed his keys onto the table. Weird shift. His roommate didn't look away from a screen. Yeah, Doug shrugged. Whatever I was towing kept flashing lights at me the whole trip. He opened the freezer. Thinks something electrical was acting up. His roommate snorted. Probably just static.
Doug nodded, yeah.
He grabbed a frozen dinner and shut the freezer door. Probably static. Somewhere deep within a secured Dravik military archive, a classified file received one final update. Humans, do not engage. Do not attack. Do not attempt to explain why. They will not believe you either.